Hello and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Alfonso Peluso and I'm an associate teaching professor in the College of Architecture at IIT, the home of the legendary Mies van der Rohe, and I'm adjunct faculty at Columbia College Chicago in the Interior Architecture program. Shout out to all my students. I hope you're having a great day. Today is a very exciting tutorial. We're going to look at real-time rendering, and this is AI real-time rendering. I'm showing you Rhino with Grasshopper to capture my image and do the real-time rendering through Rhino and Grasshopper, but it's just a screen capture. So it's just capturing the screen. It's just capturing what you see on the left. So what you see on the left is being rendered in the window on the right. So this can be from a photo, this can be from a Photoshop image, this can be from Blender, Maya, 3ds Max, whatever rendering software you're using, anything that you can capture the screen. And that would be just almost anything. So any image can be rendered in real time using this method. So just to kind of show you what can be done. So I have this pixelated tower here, and I can use my cube shuffle and I can shuffle the cubes around. And then what's going to happen on the right is that image is going to update based on the new model. So that was shifting it. I can control the number of cubes, so I can have less cubes. And then that image on the right is going to update. I can change the size of the tower. So right now there's a height of 600, so we could lower that tower down and make it much shorter. And then the image on the right is going to update with the shorter tower. There you see that. All right, before we jump into this tutorial, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Search me up on YouTube, Alfonso Peluso. Click on the subscribe, click on the down arrow to receive all the notifications. There is something here for everyone. There is AI, there is video editing, there's animation, there is rendering, there's parametric modeling. Something here for you. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. Help me get to 14,000 subscribers. That's going to be a great milestone. Also, connect with me on Instagram at my first name Alfonso _ my last name Peluso. I just reached 10,000 followers last night or early this morning, about 12:30 a.m. this morning. So I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you for all of you who helped me get to 10,000 followers on Instagram. It happened pretty fast, and it happened ever since I started putting out these videos where I'm helping architects along on their journey, or I should say architecture students along on their journey. So don't miss out on any of those videos. Go ahead and follow me on Instagram. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to go back over to what's called ComfyUi. So this is the definition that is being generated. You see that's been updated. I'm going to stop the live in the lower left here. So this is what we'll end up with. So this is, can't see much of it now, but this is ComfyUi. It's a node-based graphic interface. So it's a node-based graphic interface. It's a visual scripting interface. If you've ever worked in Grasshopper, you'll have a clue to how ComfyUi works. And this is a really powerful interface for Stable Diffusion. So this is ComfyUi for Stable Diffusion. Maybe you've used ComfyUi, maybe you've used Automatic 1111 before for Stable Diffusion. So this is the visual scripting node interface basically for Automatic 1111. And we're going to be diving pretty deep into it. All right. So I am just going to save this. And I'm going to exit out of my ComfyUi. So I am running Stable Diffusion and ComfyUi. I'm running it through RunPod. Okay, so these AI softwares, they require a lot of GPU power. you have to have a really good GPU or a graphics processing unit, which the graphics card is part of your graphics processing unit. So right now I'm renting an RTX A4000, which has a lot of RAM. I'm not sure it has 50 gigabytes of RAM, but it has a lot of RAM. So we're gonna, if you're running ComfyUi locally, you can skip forward. If you're looking for a way to run Stable Diffusion and ComfyUi and you don't have the hardware, you can cheaply rent a GPU from RunPod. So I'm going to terminate this GPU, and I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm even going to get rid of my storage. Okay, so if I just go to the home, so here we are at the home screen for RunPod. So you're going to want to make an account, and then you're going to want to log in, and then you're going to want to go to billing, and then you're going to want to add an amount. The minimum amount you can add is 10. I've been adding $25, and it's been lasting me pretty long, so I'm really happy with that. Then you're going to go to pods, and you're going to create a GPU pod. But the way that I've been doing it is I've been working with volume storage that I've been renting for about 24 cents a day, about a penny an hour. And that's 100 gigabytes worth of storage. So that's pretty cheap. So I'm going to go ahead and go to storage. I'm going to add my network volume. I've been choosing Canada. You can choose any of these data centers. Just know once you choose a data center, that's the data center that you're going to be using, because that's where your network volume drive is going to reside. It's going to reside in a physical location in Canada or Europe. And I'm under Canada, and there's an A40 available. There's an RTX A4000 that's available. Low availability on that. And you can kind of go through these and see which ones are available at each of the data centers. Looks like this European, or this Euro R01 has the most availability, so that might be a place to set up your storage drive. So I'm going to try that because I like the RTX A4000 a lot. But then if I want a little extra speed, there's an ATX A4500. Let's go back to Canada. Canada just has the RTX A4000. So I have a little more options with Europe. So I'm going to go with that one this time and see how that works out for me. And that's going to be 100 gigabytes. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. Okay, that's created. So I can go to my pods now, and I can click on GPU pod. And I'm going to be using RunPod SD ComfyUi, and I'm going to close that out just so you can see where I'm getting that. So you won't have that. You'll probably have Choose Template. And under Choose Template, you can search for ComfyUi. And it's going to be under ComfyUi. It's going to be under the community servers. So if I close this for a moment and I just go to Explore, here I can see all the templates. And if I scroll down, keep scrolling down, I'm eventually going to find, I hope, there it is, SD ComfyUi. So this is something that someone in the community has made. So that's the template that we're going to be launching. Okay, so let's go back to pods, GPU pod. I'm going to select my network drive. That's important because that's going to change to the data center in Europe that I selected. This is secure cloud. So there's two different types of clouds. There's a secure cloud and a community cloud. Secure cloud is more expensive, but you have a physical volume drive. Like I have that 100 gigabyte drive. It's accessible to me no matter what server I log into. If I use community cloud, any data that I store is going to be lost, which is not useful. It's much more useful to have your data stored, especially working with Stable Diffusion, because the file sizes can be so large, especially with the checkpoint models. So you don't want to have to download and install those each time. That's going to take forever. So I recommend Secure Cloud. You pay a few cents more. It really is a few cents more. And then I'm choosing my network volume drive, and then I'm going to go down to find my RTX A4000. That's a good one. A lot of times if the A5000 is available, I'll go and choose that for 10 cents more an hour. Here's one for 2 cents more an hour. And for 2 cents more an hour, I'm going to get 20 gigabyte of VRAM versus 16 gigabyte of VRAM. So when we looked at this at the beginning of the video, it showed us the 50 gigabyte of RAM, but it didn't show the VRAM. When I knew it wasn't 50 gigabytes of VRAM. So I was using at the beginning of this video 16 gigabytes of VRAM. I'm going to up that right now to 20 gigabytes of VRAM. So I'm going to deploy that one. And I just want to make sure it's deploying my template. So I'm going to find RunPod SD ComfyUi. So that's important. Just double check that. And then I'm good to click continue and then deploy. It's now building my pod with this awesome little graphics. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the down arrow here, and I'm watching the logs. So I'm going to click on logs, and I'm going to click on play here so it keeps this in real time. So I want to let this finish. Basically, it's installing ComfyUi for Stable Diffusion. It's doing that installation for us behind the scenes. So that's really great to have happen for us. And this goes pretty quickly. If you used Automatic 1111, you know Automatic 1111 can take some time. But this goes a lot quicker. So I'm going to go to connect. Okay, so I'm able to connect to both of these. So I'm going to connect to the HTTP service 3000, and that's going to bring me to ComfyUi, and it's going to have a default landing screen, and this is called a project. So it has a default project already loaded. It's already ready to go. If I was to click on Q prompt or Control Enter, it's going to go through. It's going to think at the checkpoint when it first goes through. Now it's going through pretty quick, and it's just giving me a beautiful scenery, nature, glass bottle. Just want to zoom into that. So beautiful scenery, nature, glass bottle, landscape, purple galaxy bottle. So that's what we're getting here at the end. So that's as simple as it gets. We have a prompt. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste my prompt. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste it in here. So get rid of that, paste it in here. I'm also going to have a negative prompt. I'm just going to have water because I don't want this floating in water. So an eye-level view of a skyscraper in the parametric style located in Chicago with mist and fog in the atmosphere. Skyscraper is made of glass and steel. Park in the foreground. Greenery from park is growing up the building. Crowds of people, ethereal heaven-like light, ambient occlusion, soft shadows. So that is my prompt. So, and the checkpoint model is just using this version 1.5 prune. So I'm not expecting anything special. The next thing we're going to talk about is loading the checkpoint in. So I'm going to use Q prompt or Control Enter, and it's just going to run through, and it's going to generate that image for me. I like the atmosphere of it. It's just giving me something very vague, okay? So we need a decent checkpoint model. And these are going to get better and better. And I'm very hopeful with the release of Stable Diffusion 3, which is out there to select people. I can't wait till it comes out because I really want to try Stable Diffusion 3 checkpoints. For now, I'm using this ArchitectureRealMix, and there's many checkpoints out there that you can experiment with. So I'm going to load this into my RunPod. So I need to right-click on the download. Not click, because that'll try to download it on my local computer. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Copy Link Address. And then I'm going to go over to my pods, and I'm going to connect to Jupyter Lab. So this is just a file interface, a file explorer interface for my network volume that I have, that 100 gigabyte network volume. And I always need to be working under workspace. If I go back a folder, I don't want to work in this folder. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to work in the ComfyUi here because there is a ComfyUi directory there. I want to make sure that I'm working under workspace, and then ComfyUi. And then I'm going to go to Models, and I have a checkpoint model. Now, Jupyter Lab does not let you go into the checkpoints folder for this particular download. Maybe because, I don't know, the files are too big in there, but for whatever reason, it doesn't let you go in. So I need to copy my checkpoint models here to this folder and then move them into the checkpoints. So I'm going to start a terminal, and I'm going to type in wget space, and I'm going to Control V to paste in that address from Civet Models AI for the ArchitectureRealMix. I'm just going to press enter, and it's going to start the download of that file, which that file is pretty big. I forgot exactly, but it is exactly 3.95 gigabytes, so pretty big. So that's going to take some time to download. Then we're going to have to rename it, and I'm just going to rename it ArchRealMix 1.5 for Stable Diffusion Model 1.5. And the biggest important thing is that I name it with an extension .safetensors, and you're going to see that in a bit. Okay, that is finished. Okay, so it says 100% here, so you know it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and rename it. I'm going to click on it and then right click and choose rename. I'm going to name this ArchRealMix. And then it's important to put the Stable Diffusion model so that you know, because you might mix these checkpoints together, and you can only mix checkpoints that are based on the same Stable Diffusion model. So this is 1.5. Can't wait to be using 3.0 checkpoints. That's going to be fantastic. Okay, so 1.5, and this is the important part. Safe, S-A-F-E, tensors, T as in Tom, E-N-S-O-R-S, safe tensors. So you want to make sure that you rename that safe tensors. And then I'm just going to move it into the checkpoints folder because that's where it needs to go. Okay, so now if I go back to my ComfyUI, I just need to click on refresh from the right. And then I should be able to pick my checkpoint name. If I click on this, and there's my ArchitectureRealMix, so I'm going to click on that. And then I'm just going to click on Q prompt or Control Enter and just run that through. So it's going to sit a little bit while. It's going to stall. Don't be worried. It's going to stall at the load checkpoint because that's the first time you're using it. It's a big file to load in. Once it loads it in, so after the first time you use it, then it's going to go pretty quickly. It's not going to stall, but it will stall there the first time you use it. Wow, that took a lot longer than I thought, so don't worry. It seemed like it took forever. So we get a nicer model. We're looking more at a building there. So that's pretty cool. All right, a couple things that I want to change. Okay, so I like that building. That looks pretty good. I'm going to change the amount of steps. I typically use 30 steps. That's the higher the steps, the better quality you get, but over 30, it just ends up taking longer with not much quality increase. And then my configuration is how much to stick to the prompt. So I'm going to have it stick to that prompt even more. The higher value, the more it sticks to it. The lower value, the more creative it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in 20 there so it really sticks to my prompt. Then my sampler name is going to be a DPM. So I'm going to click on the sample name. There is a DPM PP underscore 2M. I'm going to use that one. That one seems to work really good just based on all the research that I've looked at online and from the experience of using Stable Diffusion myself. That works really well. And the scheduler for that is Chorus. So I like that a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it at that. And we'll come back and talk about the C, but we'll just leave it there. Let's go ahead and Control Enter and run our prompt. So you see it goes pretty quick the next time through. So that is getting better quality in this image. It's not as fuzzy. So that's getting some really nice images out of that. Really excited about it. All right. So what we're going to need is we're going to need ControlNet. You might have used Automatic 1111 with ControlNet. We're going to be using it inside of ComfyUi. So we have to load our ControlNet model in. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to type in apply, and there's an apply ControlNet. And I'm going to use not the advanced, just a regular apply ControlNet. And I'm going to bring that out. And this kind of gives me an indication of what the inputs are and what I'm going to need. I'm going to need a conditioning, which is a prompt. So I'm going to put the positive prompt in there. I'm going to need a ControlNet model, and I'm going to need an image. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of this stuff over. So if I use my control key, I can make a window, and I can select, it's more of a crossing. So I can make a crossing and select the capsules that I want. And then to actually move them, I have to hold the shift key down to move more nodes than one. And I'm just going to move these off to the side so I have some area to make some more nodes or place some more nodes. Okay, so my conditioning is going to come from my positive prompt. So I'm going to drop that there. I need my ControlNet. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to type in load, and I'm going to type in load control, and there's load ControlNet model, and I'm going to choose that. And what's missing here with this ComfyUi that we've installed through RunPod is it's missing a control point, not a control point, but it's missing a ControlNet model. We're going to be using a Canny model. Canny takes an image, finds the edges, and then Stable Diffusion uses those edges to make a rendering. All right, so we're going to need that, but we're going to plug that into ControlNet for now. And then we're going to need the image. Okay, so before we jump into the image part of it, I'm going to go ahead and get that ControlNet Canny model. So I'm going to be getting that by going over to Manager. So I'm going to go to Install Models. And I'm going to search Canny. And then the one that I'm going to be using is Stable Diffusion 1.5, ControlNet version 1.1, Canny FP16. So that's the one that I'm going to install. It takes a little bit of time to install it. You'll see the green text will be giving you a prompt on what's going on. So it says it's installing. Okay, now it says to apply the installed model, please click the refresh button on the main menu. Okay, so it's installed. You see the green button in the right there. So I'm going to click close, and I'm going to click refresh. And then it automatically put that model that we downloaded into the Canny. So that's working for us. So we now need a few more nodes before we get to see anything special happening. So one thing that we're going to need is this screen share, which is what captures, like I mentioned before, it captures anything on your screen. That could be a Photoshop image, that could be a Rhino Grasshopper script, that could be Maya, that could be anything. It could be just a picture. So it's going to capture that. So that's something brought to us by MixLab. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our manager, and we're going to choose install custom nodes, and we're going to search for MixLab, and we have our ComfyUi MixLab nodes, and we're going to go ahead and install that. Again, just be patient and keep an eye on the lower left on what that progress is telling you. So it's installing. Okay, I noticed that you will get an error with that, or you might get an error, and that's okay. You just got to be patient. I'm not sure what causes that error, but that happens, and you see, just be patient, and it pops back up, and look at what it's telling you on the bottom. It's telling you to restart the ComfyUi, so you click on it, click OK, and then you'll have to click on refresh also. Okay, so let's see if the node is available for us. So it's by MixLab. So if I type in MixLab, I'm not going to get anything. But if I type in share screen, I'm still not getting anything. So when this happens, what you're going to need to do is refresh the browser. So not the refresh on the right, but actually refresh your browser. So on the upper left, you should see a little circular arrow, and you can click on that. Okay, now if I double click and I type in Mix, then MixLab stuff shows up. And I'm looking for screen share. And we're going to be talking much more about that. Okay, so that's what I want to have as my screen share. Okay, so if your screen share doesn't look like my screen share, it's because it hasn't downloaded the latest, basically the latest Python file that it needs. So if it doesn't look like mine, you're going to have to go and find the screen share Py file. Okay, so it's a screen share node.py, and I'll put a link in the description to it, but I've just searched in Google. I've searched MixLab screen share node ComfyUI, and I get this little image that I clicked on, and I went to view. I opened this link in a new tab and then view it, and then that brought me here. That brought me to GitHub. So if you've been to GitHub before, the author is Shadow C7 007. Shadow C, not C7, but Shadow CZ 007. And he has a Comfy MixLab nodes. And in there, you can download this screen share node.py. So you can download that to your local computer, and then you're going to upload that. So you're going to download it first, and then you're going to upload it. So to download it, you just click on it, and then in the upper right, there's a little download raw file. And then you're going to go to your Jupyter window, and you're going to put that in a very specific place. So where you're going to put that is under ComfyUI, Custom Nodes, Comfy MixLab Nodes, and then inside the Nodes folder. So there you already see a screen share node.py, but you're going to click on the upload files, and you're going to upload the new one if your screen share node doesn't look like mine. So that's what you'll need to do. All right, so we have this. We're going to need another window, and that window is going to be an image resize or node, another node. So image resize doesn't show up by default. So we need to download another node. So we're going to go to our manager. We're going to go to install custom nodes. We're going to type in the search. This time we're going to type in ComfyUi Essentials. And we're going to search for ComfyUi Essentials. And we have the ComfyUi Essentials here. We're going to go ahead and install them. Okay, it says to restart and then refresh the browser. Sometimes you need to refresh the browser. Sometimes just clicking on refresh will work. I usually start with refresh because it's less disruptive. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to look for resize image, and that's here, or image resize is actually what it's called. So image resize with the little wrench. So I'm going to use that one. So now we see we can go from our screen share. We're going to go from image to image. And then we need one more node here so that we can connect to our apply ControlNet image. So it's not a node. I shouldn't say it's a node. Sorry. We're just going to go right from image to image. So I like the color coding in here. And for right now, we're using 512 pixels by 512. At the end, we'll talk about how you can increase that to 1024 by 1024. It's going to be slower, but you're going to get better resolution and better quality. I'm going to click on Keep Proportion, so it just keeps all my renderings square. All right, so we are pretty close to rocking and rolling here. We don't have too much more to do. All right, so let's go ahead and share our screen. So we're going to click on, I'm going to click on, I have problems zooming in and out in this interface. I don't know why. You might be having that too. I'm going to click on Share Screen, and I'm going to choose Window. And then you see one of my windows is a Rhino window that's open, so I'm going to choose that. I'm going to click Share. And then it brings you to the Rhino window, and you can click on Hide at this message at the bottom, but then you still have to go back over to ComfyUI. So I go back over to ComfyUI, and I can set the area, and then pick something or try to make a square. You know, it doesn't have to be exact, but it's going to force that square resolution anyway. So we're going to do that. And for now, I'm just going to go ahead and run this and see what I get. So Q prompt or Control Enter. Let it go through. Okay. So a couple more things that we need in here. So we're seeing something, not quite what we want yet. Couple more things that I want to see is I want to actually see the Canny image, because the Canny image is not the ControlNet. Okay, so ControlNet is not in play yet. So this is just almost like an image to image mode. Okay, so ControlNet's not in play. So that Rhino model is not really having a lot of influence yet. Okay, so for that Rhino model to have influence, we're going to need a preview image or image preview. I see preview image. Okay, and what we're missing is Canny. So Canny is what we're missing. That's the key node here. So we're going to go from image to image, and then from image to image. And if I just run my queue again, we're going to see it generates an image here. Okay, let's go look at that. Okay, so that's not very sharp, okay? We want this to be sharper. So to get this to be sharper, we have to lower our low and high thresholds. So we're going to lower these. We're going to lower them pretty low, okay? We're going to lower these down pretty low. Okay, so I'm going to put in 0.005. Okay, 0.01 is the lowest, so 0.005 it didn't like. 0.01 is the lowest, and 0.99 is the highest. But I'm going to keep this pretty low, so I'm going to try 0.5. And then I'm going to run my prompt again so that I can see. Okay, so now it's picking up a lot more of the image. So you kind of want to experiment with the low and the high threshold. That looks pretty good. Okay, so it's still not in play yet. It's making nice images of some pretty cool skyscrapers. I like that in the parametric style. But it's not our Rhino model yet. Okay, because our apply ControlNet conditioning has to go into the positive. Okay, so now ControlNet is in play. It's in the positive prompt. So we're going to go ahead and run our Q prompt. Okay, I see what I'm missing here. Right here where it says apply ControlNet image, it's not using my Canny image. So I got to make sure that it's using my Canny image. Glad I'm running into these little mistakes here. So let's just kind of organize this a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so now we can actually see it. We can get carried away with organizing this stuff. All right, so let's try this again. Let's hope the Canny works, and it looks like what we see in Rhino. All right, there we go. Now we're starting to see it. Okay, now our Rhino model is having influence. So it's all about the real-time rendering. What I showed you in the beginning, you've been waiting patiently. How do we see this in real time in Rhino? So what we're going to bring out, if I double click, I'm going to type in MixLab, and we're going to find the floating video window. Where's our floating video window? So let's type in floating video. Okay, so floating video. All right, and we're going to plug in our image from our VAE decode. We're going to plug in our image there. And we're going to click on picture in picture. And I have this little button here that takes away that prompt. That prompt has nothing to do with the prompt. The prompt is coming from our positive prompt. So this has nothing to do with it. Okay, our seed is at randomized. Eventually I'm going to want this to be fixed. We'll run this one more time. Let's run it through. Okay, so we'll run it through. And then you can get something that you're happy with before you fix the seed. So you can keep running this through until, you kind of like the way the background looks. There's too many buildings in that background. Whoa, what's that above the building? But I'm liking this GPU. This GPU is pretty quick. It's putting some stuff on the top here based on something that it's seeing in the Canny image. It's putting some trees on it, which is really nice. Okay, so here's one just kind of subtle. Okay, it has, it's okay. The context buildings are okay. So I'm gonna lock the seed to fixed. So my seed's gonna be fixed. And now this window's floating. So when I go over to Rhino, I'm gonna have that floating window. So there it is. Okay, and now all the magic that I showed you at the beginning can happen. Let's make this building taller. It's gonna fall off of it's gonna come out of our screen probably. Let's try 600 and see if that stays within our window. Okay, something that I haven't activated. One more thing that needs to be activated. Over in ComfyUi, we need to go over to the screen share MixLab, and we need to click Live Run. Live Run. Let's set our area to be bigger. Let's say that's the tallest I'm going to make it. Okay. All right. Let's go to Rhino. Okay, so let's work with some of this stuff. Now I gotta get used to using my mouse in Rhino and Grasshopper. So in Grasshopper we had the number of cubes. We had this cube shuffle, so that just shuffles the cubes around, and that's gonna update in that window. And then we had the cube size, so I can make them smaller. It only gets so small. Okay, so that's the bigger one. We'll let that generate. Okay, it's kind of more of a normal type looking building. I like them when they're smaller. And then the number of cubes, we can increase the number of cubes, so we can have more cubes. All right, so you remember how it worked in the beginning. It's working like that right now. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the resolution, increasing the resolution. So if we go back over, I'm just going to close this window for now, and we're going to go back over to ComfyUi, and I'm going to change the resolution in a few places. One is the image resize. So I'm going to change that to 1024 by 1024. So I'm going to change it there, and I'm also going to change it over here in the empty latent image. I'm going to change that to 1024 and the height to 1024. So now it's going to make 1024 by 1020. Oh, let's get that width to 1024. Now it's going to make images that are twice the resolution of what we were just making, and we'll have to see how much longer that's going to take. So let's run our prompt. So you see that's taking a little bit longer in the K-sampler there. It's sitting there a little bit longer. So that's how much time you're going to have to wait each time for it to regenerate in this picture-in-picture. So now if I go over to Rhino, now I can make this picture-in-picture pretty big. And I can click on the little, I don't know what that icon is, on the right there. Okay, so now let's see how it responds. Okay. Let's go over in Grasshopper and let's change the number of cubes. So let's have more cubes. Let's let that think for a second. So it took a little longer to do that. So just something you got to be aware of. I would work at the 512, and then I would use a upscaler. So you're going to just Google search upscaler, and you'll find out how you can upscale some of these things. All right. That is what I wanted to show you. Hopefully you're amazed. Real-time rendering, real-time AI rendering using Stable Diffusion ComfyUi. Can't wait till Stable Diffusion 3 comes out. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment why you liked it. My head's going to pop up in the upper left. Click on that if you haven't subscribed. I'll put 2 more videos for you to look at in the upper right and the lower right. All right, I wish you all the best and have a great rest of your day.